All right, friends. Good afternoon. It's about 5 till 5. April the 21st, 2020. Interesting day in the market. Of course, we are going to address the elephant in the room. USO and crude futures. Okay, so I think we might as well just go ahead and start there, right? I think this is what most people have right now when they're thinking about the markets and just the fiasco that has been the last couple of days, okay? So here was our crude today, down 40% after going negative yesterday, right? Going negative yesterday. So where to begin, right? I think that one of the primary things that we need to be taken away from the oil market is that it is a bellwether, a harbinger, right, for what is to come in the markets, okay? I think that there's no other way than to show that we are finally beginning to see the impacts. When we had this initial crash, there were so many mitigating factors, right? So as we go to the S&P 500, I might actually go to SPX because of how much is happening with this chart. But when we go to SPX, right, we saw more than 1,000-point decrease in SPX from 219 to 323. I think it was, 323. So what we know to be the case, right? What we know unequivocally to be the case is that there were a ton of factors here. And then we see this, so we just go to a drawing. We know that there were, here we go. We know that there were a ton of things that happened from here to here, right? There were a ton of mitigating factors. But then when we go here to here, right, this to this was, I think, in large parts the relief rally, right? And then when we go to something like crude oil, and the reason that it's a harbinger, right, the reason that it's a bellwether is because it directly and is one of the first indicators for what global demand is looking like across the board. And there's so much, as we look at crude oil, right, there is so much that is part of our crude oil experience, right, or our crude oil necessities. There is so much that relies on it. So for demand to be essentially nothing, right, and for supply to so vastly outweigh, and the fact that it was cheaper yesterday, right, the fact that it was cheaper yesterday to pay somebody to offload oil than it was to find a place to store it, indicates that we are so far out and that we're going to see some major carnage in the marketplace, right? Major carnage is coming. I don't think that there's any way around this reality. I just don't. Okay, and I think that that's what we're seeing here in crude. I mean, we are just in so many ways very much in a world of hurt right now. So let's go to USO, and we took a little lump. I knew that this was happening, right? I knew that oil was going to struggle. I knew that oil was going to be a major issue. I did not think that I would get stopped out, right? So when it's at 4 and I'm selling 2 puts, right, I did not think I was going to get stopped out. Now let me say this. I ended up stopping out of oil somewhere in this area, right? So if we go into the 1 day, 1 minute, right? So we had oil. So from 10, I stopped out somewhere in this area, right? Somewhere in this area before we see this, right? So would I have liked to have got the, got this up here? Absolutely. It didn't happen. I stopped out of all of the positions in oil in here just because it was very apparent what was going to happen today with oil in USO. Very apparent, right? And so I took a lump. I took losses. And you live to fight another day. You preserve that capital, and that's what happens, right? That's what happens. So moving forward, unless I scalp or unless I try to day trade some of this, I am just not even going to bother with oil. I'm just not. Okay. All right, let's go to our S&P 500. Up a little after hours, but certainly big day, big down day, 3%. You know, you have to begin to assume we lost this 9 EMA. We're losing the 9 EMA. I think that this is going to be a really solid short area right here. In fact, I think this gap that we still have not filled yet is going to be a great short area. We found all of these gaps. Remember a couple of months ago, right, when we were showing some of these gaps, and man, we destroyed them all. Now we got a couple of gaps to the upside. A couple of gaps to the upside that we're gonna have to watch. So it is worth us keeping an eye on this 9 EMA. Might be worth thinking about what that means for your own positions. Certainly for me, I have got quite a few positions in here in S&P 500. Just a couple of different things that I'm really interested in. I think these all-time highs are just so far away to ever being really a reality again. So 2 positions there, not even bothering. Actually, I do want to put I thought I had a order here. Looks like I don't. GTC, this bad boy, send. All right. So got our order there. So, but as we look at this, right, there is a lot that is going to happen. Okay, there's a lot that's going to happen. Which means, though, that we're going to have, an update in the VIX. So let's go to the VIX. Pretty wide, pretty significant update, up 8%. I think that it's going to be time soon to begin to the process of laddering into some short puts. I had some short puts on. I haven't put any more in quite a bit of time, but you can see here we've gone up almost $10. So if you had those calls, I'm sure Contango is crazy. I haven't looked at Contango yet today. We're seeing quite a bit in some of these SPX positions. Let's look at Netflix after hours. So NFLX, one of the ones that had major earnings today. Let's go 5-day, 5-minute. I mean, this is comical, right? In the first 5 minutes, you go from, what is this, 435 to 485. Now we're basically even. Pretty crazy. So we'll see where it opens tomorrow. We're looking for other areas in our market watch. We have all of our alerts, but let's go to our quotes. IV percentiles. Yeah, unsurprisingly, USO's got a huge IV percentile. We've got nat gas. A couple of things we did put on some positions in XHB, XMI. We've actually stayed around. XME, excuse me. XBI has stayed pretty good. Looking to get gold, but you can see that across the board, really high elevated versions of what we have going on. XP is interesting, right? We've got a couple of positions there in XOP. It's been really XLE rather than XOP. It's been really interesting that largely we've seen some of our oil producers hold. So it might be worth dipping our toe back in some other parts of oil as we look to continue to just navigate these crazy, crazy markets. Okay, so, as we look into tomorrow, going to continue to look at slowly, very, very slowly, taking a look at our market watch, finding those securities that have the largest or highest IV percentile, and beginning perhaps a day at a time to build out September. Okay, one at a time, building out September. That's where we're at. If you want to join, head over to my Patreon page. Just search for Sell That Option. And I look forward to seeing you trade with me on the other side. All right, have a great, what is today? Tuesday. Have a great Tuesday, everyone.